Hello and welcome. We have today with us someone from the tire industry. We have Arnab Banerjee, who is the Chief Operating Officer of CEAT Tyres. Now, obviously, the tire industry is very linked to the auto industry as well. Tire industry too has been going through its ups and downs. And talking about that to us is Mr. Banerjee himself. Mr. Banerjee, thanks for joining us. I can see you all are working from home, and clearly this is the new normal. But just wanted to get your sense. Of course, now it's been we are well into life with the pandemic. It's not going away anywhere soon, but business has got back. And how's it looking for you and the tire industry specifically now that we have seen a bit of a bounce back, a sharp V-shaped recovery, but now the prospect of the pandemic rising again, and not lockdowns but certain restrictions, even looking at the future, are there challenges ahead?
Yeah, so first of all, it's a pleasure to be on your show. And I would like to start off by saying that the first quarter, of course, as we all know, was a washout. Though commercial vehicles were still plying on the roads and shipping general merchandise, pharmaceutical stuff, and all the rest, you could see that by the toll collections. Quarter two onwards, gradually things started shaping up. I'm talking of the aftermarket now, and there was a sharp recovery in commercial and two-wheeler first in the aftermarket. And the passenger car recovery actually was the last of the block. I think it started doing well August onward, when gradually there was some relaxations in the market, and there were a lot of pent-up demand, as we still call it. Yes, there was pent-up demand because we had work to do with the tires, and we had kept our cars parked in our garages. So all that came up all of a sudden. Apart from pent-up demand, the rural segment has been doing very well. There is a lot of money in the rural segment because of government interventions, and agriculture in general has been doing pretty well. Is in fact the brightest spot in the economy. So from two-wheelers to cars and the tires, therefore, were doing well. People were using their vehicles much more in both urban and rural for different reasons.
Right.
So in the rural market, they were shunning public transport. For example, MSRTC bus in Maharashtra was not being used that much, and people would travel on their bikes between one place to another, 50, 60 kilometers on the highway, along with the family. So the tire usage also had gone up significantly. And in the urban markets, people were avoiding shared mobility, and those who had their own small vehicles tucked away in their garage took them out and started traveling in their own vehicles. And OEM sales of smaller vehicles also picked up, if you've noticed at this point in
Yes.
time. So there is a pent up demand, but there's a genuine demand coming from rural and smaller towns. So I believe the economy is on its mend overall. We have to wait and see what happens after the festive season in the winter months. Typically, tire demand slows down in the winter months
Right.
in normal circumstances, but overall cannot complain as far as the replacement market is concerned.
No, that you made an interesting point that vehicle usage went up. So obviously, tire usage goes up. So did that in a way accelerate the cycle of replacement demand, or to a certain extent, because that typically would. Did you see? Were you happy with the replacement demand in these months, or did you lose out in the pre-monsoon period, which was really at the heart and the peak of the lockdown when people really change their tires just before the monsoon, and that's what you're lost out. So, just your thoughts on replacement demand, and how much of a percentage is it, and how much do you bank on replacement demand and not totally on OEM demand?
Yeah, so talking about replacement, I think June, July is the period, especially in two wheelers, people change tires before the onset of monsoon. It is June,
Right.
July, and that time things were still pretty much bad as far as lockdown is concerned. But we were on air, we were advertising our two wheeler on air, anticipating that in July it will pick up. It did pick up. There was some loss, but I don't think on a cumulative basis we really lost out. Passenger as such, passenger car tire replacement started off really from August. So we missed that whole cycle of June and July replacement in passenger in car tires for some reason. And
Yeah.
maybe people didn't use it that much in the cities because there are a lot of restrictions to travel. But yes, small businessmen, traders, those who have to move out of their home, unlike us, for their daily lives, they are using their vehicles much more often, both in the rural markets, even visiting relatives, friends, whatever, because now that trend has started a little bit. Both in urban and rural markets, people are using their vehicles a little bit more than they were using earlier. So
Right.
that is leading to more tire wear and hence more replacement. Yeah.
Right. And, just looking at the overall tire industry, I mean, it was under stress, earlier. I don't know whether there are opportunities for exports. But do you feel that, certain steps now taken to restrict imports to a certain level, is that helpful? Do you think that could, is it let's say, an opportunity for local companies manufacturing over here? And at the same time, would you be looking at getting into slightly larger tire sizes as well?
So there are two parts of it. One is the whole Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative, where actually the consumers have a lot of choice from Indian manufacturers, and I'm including all kinds of manufacturers, not just the Indian manufacturers, but the MNCs who have set up factories in India. The consumers have a lot of choice in two-wheelers, in passenger cars, even in truck tires for that matter. That's number one. So when the imports have been restricted, naturally, everybody who has a manufacturing unit inside the country has benefited, including CEAT. And we have had invested about close to 3,000 crores in the recent. We are going up on the capex cycle, and now the operational leverage is going to come out. So it has come at an opportune time for us also. We have a huge factory setting up, which is ramping up in Chennai for passenger cars. At Nagpur, there's a two-wheeler factory which is ramping up. In Halol in Gujarat, there's a truck bus radial factory which is ramping up. So there has been huge investments by us, and the import curbs would definitely benefit us to that extent that the demand will shift to our investment and we'll be able to ramp up faster. So that's one part of the thing. The second is would the industry or would the manufacturing shift and selling shift to higher sizes of tires? It's really depends on the import mix. Yes, the larger tires were imported more. So the percentage sales, if it was X today of the overall market, it will be X plus delta X. To that extent, we are prepared. And those tires will be produced and supplied in the market naturally. But there is a trend naturally of moving, as you know, of the moving up of the rim sizes. 12 inch is gone. 13
Right.
inch is the entry size. So maybe 14, 15 is now is the real entry size, and 18, 19, 17, 18 is more or less, the model
Yeah.
size right now anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, interesting you talk about the trend is there to upsize. Do you feel as a tire manufacturer with upsizing of rims, you are in a way downsizing the sidewall profile? And that in terms of impact damage is an issue. Do you feel that, the, let's say, profile of tires these days, especially for the Indian market, and even let's say sidewall construction, which has to be a slightly beefier in India, just to given the fact that sidewall damage, impact damage is pretty high. So just your thoughts on that, towards given our conditions, the way forward, and what is CEAT doing in terms of tailoring the tires to these conditions. Obviously, you would have a stiffer more plies in the sidewall, have tougher sidewalls, but there's an impact on ride comfort over there. Obviously, there's a lot of conflict in terms of balancing all these different parameters out.
So environmentally, if you see, the quality of roads are becoming better. So that's one thing good. Though the driving habits are not becoming better, the quality of roads are definitely becoming better. And we see this kind of a problem primarily in the commercial vehicle sizes in the passenger. Not so much in the vehicles which are typically run by an individual.
Right.
Yeah, it is there. It is there. It's not zero, but it is there. So what we do is that on specific sizes, we do reinforce the sidewalls. We are also trying out different materials, different compounds, which without compromising too much on the suppleness of the sidewall,
Correct. For the ride comfort.
will give that sturdiness. So we experiment quite a lot on making that happen, because it's not just a loss to the commercial vehicle owner. It's also a lot of hassle for him to go to a dealer point asking for a replacement, and then the whole cycle is messy. It's not a great experience for the customer's point of view also.
Right.
We have also experimented with the puncture safe tire in two-wheeler, and it's in a mass pilot stage, but it's in two-wheeler. But there again, it is the crown area which is getting protected. In two-wheelers, of course, the issue is on the tread part, not so
Right.
much on the sidewall.
Right. I think sidewall damage you can't save with a puncture. You have to literally
it's difficult.
away.
It's difficult. So far, no great ideas have evolved on how to really make it puncture-proof actually on the sidewall. So you enhance the construction, you make it sturdier. We are experimenting with actually some new compounds as well on the sidewall. So it's a continuous journey, but the roads are also improving. So that's one good thing that's happening. And it will be on the wane. I think this will be gradually coming under control over a period of time.
Right. And what's your sense from what the consumer wants? Is it at the end of the day maximum life and durability, or do you get feedback on ride comfort, or people just that's not so much a priority? Is it road noise? How do you kind of, because a lot of these are very conflicting, and then of course there's a cost, because to meet all of these sometimes you need let's say more artificial rubber and materials and synthetics, which again pushes the cost up. So this also must be a challenge for a tire manufacturer to find this correct, the right balance.
Balance, yeah. And like tire is just like a shampoo.
Yeah.
Finally, it's the brand what matters. So as far as CEAT is concerned, it is safety. The brand is structured around safety, and the archetype is everyman. So whether it's a Merc or a scooter, you would find CEAT lending a helping hand to you. That's the construct within which we work. Now,
Right.
Now, as you said, noise. The consumer is evolving, right? So as the roads are becoming better, with electric vehicles coming tomorrow, noise will become very important. It's not so today because ambient noise is so high in India.
Exactly.
Right? Noise will become important. Ride and handling comfort. People are noticing these things. Steerability, which was not a big deal. What do you do on an Indian road with steerability? Cornering. So those kind of things people are getting conscious about, and they are reading more on the internet today. So the consumer is evolving, and many dimensions there has to be fulfilled. OEMs are very, very sensitive about rolling resistance, fuel economy.
Especially with EVs coming in. Yeah.
EVs coming even now, even without EVs.
For fuel efficiency and for CAFE norms, they'll need that.
Absolutely. But the replacement customer still has not got educated enough to look at fuel efficiency. But when you drive fuel efficiency, then you compromise on life of the tire, for example.
Correct.
Okay. If you ask an Indian aftermarket customer, he or she will say, I am bothered about the life. But they sell off the car most of the time before the tire runs out, right?
The tire runs out,
yeah. But one underlying theme is safety, especially for two-wheelers. When a family member goes out on Indian roads, and that's why the Idiot Safe campaign, if you remember, and less so in four-wheelers. Four-wheelers, it's about control. Now, we are a very, very interesting country. Safety and control in Tamil Nadu means completely different from safety and control in Delhi.
How do you mean?
Yeah, so in Tamil Nadu, it's or any south or west states, it's about there's chaos on the road anyway. There are cows parked on the road. There's a vendor crossing the street. There's a guy talking on the phone. So you have to avoid that and that kind of a safety. In the north, people want to own the roads, so they would like to, if they have the car, they would like the crowd to melt away and they would ride the car. Like that. So you get the nuance, right? Yeah. So, but he also needs control, whether he's in Delhi and whether he's in Tamil Nadu, but in a different way. So how do you communicate? How do you first make products which are really maneuverable on an Indian road? And how do you communicate that? I think we had been pretty successful nationally, but there are regional nuances also which makes the job even more challenging but interesting. I think it's a good problem to solve solve for if you have the right product. Yeah.
Right. And I just want to touch upon low rolling resistance. We talked about that. Is that you think going forward, because eking out fuel efficiency, there's a limit to how much you can do from the engine, from friction and things like bearings. Obviously, the tire plays a role. I could imagine it's a good 5%, which is a lot. Just you think going forward, the trend is going to be towards more LRR tires, and you're going to have new compounds and materials to kind of give you that balance of efficiency without trading off life too much as well.
Yeah, there is life and there is manufacturability. So an entire plant is set up for, let's say, high carbon compound, low silica, and then now we start manufacturing
High silica.
high silica. Then the manufacturability also, we have to have a look at reinvestment.
So that's a big investment, I would imagine.
That's a big thing. That shift is not easy. You cannot suddenly transform the entire plant. So you have to do it in stages as you go along. And of course, the tire performance parameters are also, there's a trade-off. European tires are much lighter. So they're meeting the RRC targets is easier. In a sense, at the same point of time, if you are making, we do sell a lot of tires in Europe directly. So those tires will have a lower RRC than the tires we sell in India. You mentioned about sturdy sidewall. That increases the weight of the tire. And for the same vehicle, if the weight of the tire is higher, it is difficult to deliver the same amount of fuel efficiency. But the trend is unmistakably towards low RRC in all categories. Even in truck tires, after BS6 norm implementation, the truck tire manufacturers are focusing hard on delivering low RRC on truck tires, which is a new thing in a sense. Like 5 years back, nobody talked truck tires RRC at all. It was all in passengers, but now it's across categories. And it's a big scheme of development that is going on.
Yeah. So where do you think the future trends are going to be in tires? I mean, what can we see, let's say, 5 years from now? You talked about low RRC. Obviously, hysteresis is something you want to have as low as possible because the tire properties are, important that way. Do you see breakthroughs more in materials or a little bit in construction? And, looking at the scale of the Indian market, do you think we have enough scale to make these deep investments into these new technologies?
Yeah, so one thing, as you said, is low RRC because the EVs are coming. Then noise is going to be an important thing. So how do we go, let's say 72 decibel is a sort of, or most tires are around that today. How do you go to 65, right? So low noise tires is another technology, and there are a lot of technology involvement here because very few people, as you said, have recourse to that technology. And we are good in research, but we have to do it at a price point at which the consumer buys and appreciate the low noise. So that's a challenge, but we are working on that. Third is from a consumer perspective, you are seeing a trend towards connected vehicles, right? So it is connected to a series of ecosystem, and the tire cannot be an offline stuff in the vehicle. So IoT in tires is another trend that we are going to see, and we are going to be prepared for how it communicates with the vehicle, how it communicates with the driver, and how it communicates maybe to the fleet owner, for that matter, right? So these are, and these will be met primarily through compounds as well as structures. The tires have to become lighter in weight. There is no rocket science in that. It has to be. You cannot make a heavy tire very fuel efficient. Compound technology will see a transformation. I think we will see a lot of basic research in completely new style of compounds, and IoT and digitalization. And IoT is not just putting a sensor inside. What does it communicate at what interval meaningfully for the various stakeholders in the ecosystem? And finally, it's the car that the guy is driving, not the tire, right?
Right.
And there could be another way of research where the tire is the only thing that is in touch with the ground for the vehicle.
Absolutely.
So it can generate a lot of data for design of the vehicle itself and fine-tuning of the vehicle itself. So that is not related to the consumer as such directly,
right.
But that is another area of development.
So things like the size of the contact patch and how it sits on the road. So that's interesting. So I mean, obviously, right now the sensors we have are basically for tire pressure monitoring systems. those are the sensors. But what you're saying is you might go beyond that and use basic sensors with software to kind of throw up far more
Yes.
data, which is useful for the consumer and the OEM as well.
Right, right. And I don't know how fast it will happen, but you may see a day where people may stop buying tires. They may buy a service on a
Right.
CPK basis, especially the commercial users, right? So why should I buy a tire? I'll pay you by so many mileage. So that's another trend that could emerge very soon, faster than we think.
Right. But I just wanted to talk to you on the emotional side of the tires. I mean, there is some, especially with enthusiasts. I probably it's the the only component you have some emotional connect with. You don't have it with your windscreen washer fluid. You might have it a little bit too for lubrication to some extent. You don't have it necessarily with things like brake pads, where some do. I mean, are you finding that with enthusiasts there is a bit of an emotional connect? And frankly, over there it's the big multinational brands which have that perception of giving the technology, and is that an area you want to try and take on, or are you going to be more on the mass scale?
We are a mass brand. That's the reality. Okay, and our archetype is everyman, which is trying to help anybody who's using a tire, whether it's a Merc or a scooter. So
But
that
then don't
is
you think that customer looks at the tire more as a commodity than, let's say, something
no, it
differentiated?
doesn't. He doesn't. He's influenced by various things, but just like you buy a soap or a shampoo, you buy a tire. There's not much difference. Of course, there's a degree of difference to which you think it's a commodity or a brand. It's not the same degree, but it's practically the same. There are influencers. We talk to the customers directly. There are dealers, and you read hell of a lot today on the internet. You have comparatives, not just the price comparison, performance comparisons. If I am going for a trek somewhere, a ride to Manali, what kind of tire I need. So lots of data is available. So for the initiated, it is about the technology, and we talk to that customer in terms of technology. It is possible now to talk to an individual customer. The old model of advertise on TV and pick up the demand through your dealer network is still valid, but it is shifting gradually of talking directly to one customer whose need is XYZ and you have the solution for him, right? Now it is very expensive, but it will evolve gradually when we are able to communicate this to the particular customer. Emotions are attached. If you see CEAT, the brand communication, it's about safety and it's not about grip. Grip is the physical feature, the grip or the braking distance. That's how we develop our tires on wet road, on dry road. But finally, it gives you safety in a certain road situation. That's emotion. And the other thing that we fight against, unlike a soap or a shampoo, a tire is bought after 2-3 years, right? So we have to maintain saliency by being on weeks on air in the old model. But today I can be communicating with you personally uh, in the context when I want you to come for alignment, when I want you to come for nitrogen, when I want you to change your tires, and I should have a fairly good idea how many kilometers you run so that I don't impinge upon your privacy at the wrong time.
Not it.
So these are not yet solved for, but this is the direction in which emotions will be evoked and we will engage with the customer. If it exists today, no, it doesn't exist, but we are progressing towards that.
Right. And last question, again, talking about the customer, obviously very intrinsic part of your business. Uh, you know, where do you see, let's say, something with a tire life going? I mean, do you see that tire life customers are accepting, let's say, a lower tire life these days, or is that pressure still on to deliver a high life? Because, today in today's Instagram world, it's instant gratification. People don't want to hang on to things for long. They change their cars so fast. Sometimes it's going to be a subscription model. They may be leasing. So, do you think that you have some sort of leeway in maybe not going for the ultimate tire life, and but going for a moderate amount of tire life? But the flip side is, you can improve grip, rolling resistance, and stuff like that.
In India, so far, in India, uh, life of a tire is the articulated need of the customer.
That's not changing.
That's not yet changing. But more needs are coming up, which is noise, which is about fuel consumption. Fuel consumption maybe will come later. Ride and handling, especially maneuverability, those needs are evolving fast. And if there is a trade-off with life, my belief is people will give weightage to those things in future. Now, when I say articulated need, it's not that the customer knows whether 60,000 is good enough or 100,000 is good enough. Maybe the customer actually sells the car before he has run 40,000, right? In the subscription model, tire life is irrelevant for the customer.
Exactly. Not for the fleet operator.
Exactly. So somewhere we cannot ignore tire life today. Even though we are looking at RRC for the truck customer, the truck customer is completely savvy about.
For truck customer, of course, it's all about economics.
It's all about economics. But you ask a truck customer fuel efficiency, he will say, "Pehle life kitna hai?" So he is not going to trade on tire life at all. And after then one retread, two retreads. So, that is not going to go away in the immediate future. Though other factors will start gaining in saliency. Tire life is going to stay in India for some more time.
Right. Great, Mr. Banerjee. Thanks so much for talking to us. Really good insight into the trends in the Indian market, and wish you all the best. Hoping you will also ride the boom or the very sharp V-shaped recovery the auto industry has seen, and that we will see better times ahead. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thanks. It's a pleasure. Thank you.